What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel, and we're jumping right to the chase here, folks, because breaking news has come out a couple hours ago at the time of recording this on Christmas Eve, that being from Pat Ragazzo. Does a great job covering the Mets through an affiliate through Sports Illustrated. Came out with the following piece saying that, yes, once the lockout is lifted, the Mets are fully expected to put Jeff McNeil, their start infielder, on the trade block in hopes of addressing their rotation and then some. So that's what I'll be breaking down in today's video, folks. Everything there is to know about this article, why it should either be surprising or not surprising for us Mets fans to see this type of thing potentially happen. Why exactly is this the right or wrong move potentially for the Mets based on the type of trade we could see? What are the trade targets that the Mets could potentially be looking at in order to give up someone like Jeff McNeil? And what are the type of replacements the Mets could also have in their infield to address the hole that would be Jeff McNeil if he is in fact traded, and so much more. So as always, folks, make sure you stay all the way till the end of the video for all the deets and all my thoughts on Jeff McNeil, these trade rumors, and what could come of it. And of course, folks, if you find yourself enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, be sure to smash that like and subscribe button, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you all so much for the continued support, folks. Now let's jump right into today's video. All right, Mets fans, first and foremost, make sure to still check out the article. Links in the description, as always, folks, by our good friend Pat Ragazzo, who was actually on the channel a week or so ago. I will have the links in the description, as always, towards that live stream as well, where he chatted with me for a while, talking about all the latest news and rumors for the New York Mets. So, great conversation. Shout out to Pat, as always. But really, let's start off with, is this surprising? Well, someone who a couple months ago came out with a video talking about 5 Mets that could potentially be dealt or given away through free agency this offseason, I am not surprised to see Jeff McNeil on the trade block when it's going to happen. And a lot of you guys in the comments of that video were really roasting me, saying, how could you even consider Jeff McNeil? There's no way the Mets would part with him. Well, here's the thing. There's actually valid reasons as to why the Mets are at least considering it. So now everything's coming full circle. Complete 180 would allow you guys, right? It's not I told you so or anything like that. But again, to be closed-minded and think that, oh, this is for certain not going to happen, there's no chance that the Mets would even consider, is foolish, because there are multiple reasons as to why Jeff McNeil could be parted with, whether we like it or not. And I'm someone that has not advocated to part ways with Jeff McNeil, because I know just how damn good of a ball player he is, and we all know that by now too. Even with his inconsistencies in 2021, even with his injury from his hamstring that definitely labored him all season long, it felt like his frustrations going on, and really it felt like he was always pulling the ball down the first baseline, always swinging out first pitch, which was definitely frustrating. This was still an anomaly of a year for Jeff McNeil. And the Mets are aware of that, but so are the many teams that have shown interest in Jeff McNeil. As we talked about previously, originally a report that I don't know if I'll be able to pull up right now, but from Michael Mayer through Mets Rise, did mention just over the past month or so, I think back in November even, that multiple teams were chiming in and sharing calls asking what is the type of deal with Jeff McNeil right now. So he has a high value. Same thing with Michael Conforto in free agency. People are not evaluating these players on their anomalies of a year. They know that they're going to bounce back. The Mets do too, and this is why it's so much more than just a performance factor into why the Mets could part ways with Jeff McNeil. And if you guys have been following along all offseason, you guys should be very aware by now that clearly this is more than just performance. It's about culture. It's about how the locker room presence is going to be. It's about how is a team going to fit in unison together, side by side, all really doing a great job, but also having the proper mindset in order to win. That's something that was in disarray, not just in 2021, but in years prior, and they're building all that so far this offseason. So when you look at Jeff McNeil, yes, he has been a great player for his entire career with the Mets. If you look at these numbers through Mets analytics, just shows you, and I will have that link in the description as always, folks, Tim as well, because I thought this was important statistics on just his numbers since arriving with the New York Mets back in around 2018 or so. He's been an absolute stud. He's an on-base machine. He's expected to probably get 300 average or so and really have upwards of 20 home runs, even though home run factor isn't really the main thing you're looking for with Jeff McNeil. No less, he's a stud. We all know that, and I fully expect him to bounce back. But when you're looking at what is more than that, right, with this Mets culture change, we have to emphasize what the article from Pat says and how things still aren't necessarily right with this clubhouse with Jeff McNeil because of what transpired with the rat and raccoon incident. As we all know, we didn't know if it was a fight or what transpired in that game against the Diamondbacks months ago, earlier in the 2021 season. Reports after the season came out that Lindor actually went on and choked Jeff McNeil, as we know, because of McNeil really being not okay with Lindor telling him him what to do, and he needs to be in the right alignment, especially for defensive shifts. And McNeil will push him, saying, "Shut up, I got it." And that still apparently hasn't resonated well with the entire clubhouse to this day, according to that report from Ragazzo. So if that holds true, that tells you that clearly there is still some uncertainties with McNeil and his future, just solely based on that locker room presence and really being on board to win. Because regardless on what side you're on with the Rat and Raccoon, they were both at fault wholeheartedly. But to suggest that McNeil had nothing wrong going on when he's the one that isn't nearly as strong defensively as Francisco Lindor, who is arguably the best shortstop in 2021 with a 99th percentile OAA, outs above average, it does tell you that yes, Lindor knows what he's doing defensively. We're aware of that. McNeil, he's solid, but he's definitely not on Lindor level. So again, they were both in the wrong, but you also have to look at why exactly it happened. What's the context, right? But the whole culture part is pivotal here, right? So if the Mets are going to part ways with Jeff McNeil, which seems like it very well can be a possibility as of now, given these reports, why exactly are they doing this? Well, there's multiple players that we could see them having interest in, and what the report suggests as well, and that being the likes of people from the Oakland A's. And really, it only makes sense to me, and I think Pat agrees as well, that if you're going to trade Jeff McNeil to, say, Oakland, you're not going to do it for just a Sean Manaea, a just Frankie Montas, or just a Chris Bassett. You really want to do something that's going to be more of a blockbuster. That's why maybe you have a Sean Manaea, the big towering lefty from the Oakland A's, and also someone like Matt Chapman. These are two guys that are in their arbitration years. Chapman has 2 years of control left on his contract. It looks like Manaea is in his final year. Guys that would be pivotal to the Mets right away, and those would be huge pieces for the Mets if Jeff McNeil could be that X factor for someone who has a couple years left on his contract control-wise, and would definitely benefit being in a system like the Oakland A's. Would do wonders for them, I'm sure. So that's a deal that would make sense for the Mets to kill two birds with one stone. But also, if there's any pitcher that makes the most sense for the Mets to try to acquire, if you're going to give up someone of the significance of Jeff McNeil, who is still a stud, who's still going to hit for average like crazy in the years going forward and on a favorable contract, it is, yes, Luis Castillo, as the article mentions, as well as a possibility from the Reds. And I don't think that would be an easy task at all, because Castillo is a stud, had an up and down year, but after his first couple months or so, really got in a groove and was one of the best pitchers in the NL down the stretch. So Castillo, years of control in his contract as well, in his late 20s. He's not someone that necessarily feels realistic, because you have to give up more than Jeff McNeil, but McNeil can of course be one of those bigger factors, those bigger pieces, if you will, and getting a deal done. But listen, more than anything else, it would be absolutely foolish for the Mets to part ways with Jeff McNeil for multiple reasons, right? But if this is more of a culture, a clubhouse thing, that's something that you can't simply defend based on the statistics, right? That's something that, as much as we would want Jeff to stay, if that's something they truly feel is not best for this team going forward, on something that's more than just your on-field performance, then like the Javi Baez is in parting ways with him, like the Marcus Stroman's in parting ways with him. Those are really talented players, but there are reasons why the Mets have changed direction here. So if they do change direction, how are they going to replace someone like McNeil? Well, the article suggests one of them shouldn't be a surprise. It would be someone maybe like a Chris Bryant, which I do feel is almost inevitable that the Mets will be pursuing him hard once the lockout is lifted, for multiple reasons, but of course starts with his versatility and just the Mets being connected to him so on. But also a name that is a little bit more surprising is someone like the free agent Trevor Story, who's been dealing with some injuries that would make more sense not as the shortstop position, but potentially as a long-term second base option, knowing that that would be less stress on his elbow and just a more comfortable position for him, who had a down year, someone that the Mets could take advantage of depending on what his market is going to be. So those are some infield options for the Mets for sure, but more than anything else, you're not parting ways with Jeff McNeil unless you have a trade that makes sense for both sides, especially given his control on his contract. This is a guy that, again, is a bounce back candidate like no tomorrow. And while there's definitely that risk of, okay, maybe you don't trade him and he has another down year, then his value really plummets. So there's obviously pros and cons of this situation. I'm someone that does not want to see Jeff McNeil go personally based on his performance alone. But if this is more than that, if this is something that could potentially be a clubhouse cancer, not that I'm labeling him as that, I'm saying if that is in fact the scenario that we're dealing with, then rightfully so. Mets have to do what they feel is best for this team to have them have success, to have little to no distractions, if you will, as possible in 2022 and beyond under Buck Showalter. Buck isn't going to deal with that, and we all know that all we saw in 2021 were distractions for different reasons, and McNeil unfortunately was part of those. So we're going to see what the Mets are going to do. I'm excited to talk about it more. Plenty of trade packages and ideas will be discussed on the channel going further in depth, but I want to get this report out to you guys because it's important to know that Jeff McNeil, again, it shouldn't come as a surprise that he very well could be dealt with this offseason. Now, whether I agree or disagree with it will be directly in hand with the type of deal we could potentially see. So Mets fans, let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about Jeff McNeil potentially on the trade block? Do you think this is a positive, negative? And what are some players that you would like to see either the Mets go after or potentially receive as a replacement for someone like Jeff if he's in fact traded? Let me know it all in the comments down below, folks. And again, thank you all so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button, sharing this video with your friends, put on the notification bell, all those great things. I know this video was a little rustier than what I normally do. This was breaking news. I was out doing even late last minute Christmas shopping, but I want to wish everyone a very happy holiday, Merry Christmas if you do in fact celebrate Christmas. And guys, can't wait to see you guys again soon, probably back on Monday. Have a great holiday, and of course, let's go Mets, baby.